Notice is hereby given that a quorum of the Equity Council Committee members, a standing committee of the Fayette County Board of Education, has scheduled its regular meeting on June 2nd, 2026 from 6:30 to 7:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This meeting will be live streamed at fcps.net for public viewing. At this time, I would like to ask Elizabeth Coffey to take roll. Lizzie, could you take coffee for it? Lizzie, could you take roll for us? I'm sorry.
Yes. Dr. Allison Ellis.
Here.
Dr. Rania Belmadani.
Present.
Grace Williams.
Present.
Scott Horn.
Present.
Norma Justice. Kamisha Boyd Powell. Shretha Chantal.
Present.
Jeanette Hart. Raisa Russell.
Present.
Emmanuel Smith. And Kalisa Burrell.
Present.
And Jeanette Hart just got added as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lizzie. All right. We will now move to the reading of our mission statement by Equity Council Committee Member Scott Horn.
The mission of the Equity Council is to monitor and analyze equity issues, advise the Fayette County Board of Education, and advocate for achievement for all students.
Thank you so much, Scott. Next, ECC members will take a moment to read and acknowledge our guiding principles, which you all should have access to. Once you've done so, please verbally acknowledge by saying, "I acknowledge."
I acknowledge.
I acknowledge.
I acknowledge.
I acknowledge.
Awesome. Thank you so much. At this time, we would like to welcome and acknowledge any guests we have with us this evening. On behalf of the Equity Council Committee, I am pleased to welcome Tyler Murphy, Board Chair, filling in for the amazing Amy Green, Bill Bradford, Assistant Superintendent, and Tracy Bruno, Chief of Staff for FCPS. Next on our agenda is public participation, where we welcome remarks from community members. Do we have any public participation? Anybody signed up?
No, we do not.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, then I guess we can move on to our action items. Our first action item is approval of tonight's agenda. The June regular meeting agenda was made available to council members recently. If you have not already, please take time to review the agenda for accuracy. And once you have done so, I will accept a motion to adopt. One thing that I would like to say is, I don't know if we have, well, I know we don't have a completed something to present for the FAIR framework. So whoever does make the motion, I would appreciate if you could amend the agenda to move the FAIR framework to a discussion item.
I'll move that we move the FAIR framework from an action item to a discussion item.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll move into a time of voting. All in favor of amending the agenda, please repeat after me by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes. So now the agenda has been amended. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Perfect. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please designate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Beautiful. Motion passes. All right. Now we will move into approving the minutes. The minutes were made available to council members recently as well. If you have not already, please take time to review the minutes for accuracy. And once you have done so, I will accept a motion to adopt the May planning meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve minutes.
Second.
Perfect. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. Moving to a time of voting. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Thank you all so much. Our next action item is the pilot program, where we will hear from Mr. Tracy Bruno, FCPS Chief of Staff, and his guests. I will turn it over to you all at this time.
Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me before I get started? Okay, great. Thank you. We've come here tonight to present some pilot agreements. This presentation was given to the Board of Education on May 11th. There are two developments that are requesting industrial revenue bonds and a pilot agreement. We'll go through what that is in a moment. What we're asking the committee tonight, the council tonight, is whether or not to make a recommendation to the school board on one or both of these proposals. As we go through these proposals, I will give an introduction to the industrial revenue bond scenario, and then turn it over to I'll turn it over to Sam Schoberg to go over his presentation first, and then to Scott Shapiro to go over his. And please, if you all have any questions during the process, just ask away, okay? On October 9th, 2025, the Urban County Council approved their use of industrial revenue bonds for housing development, especially workforce housing. Industrial revenue bond regulations require the project to promote job creation or demonstrate economic development directly results from the proposed project. The bonds can mean lower interest rates for developers. The updated policy now includes criteria that allow industrial revenue bonds to be used for certain housing developments inside the urban service boundary. Under the updated guidelines, the projects must, 1, be mixed use with the creation of jobs on the property. 2, to receive a 15-year leaseback industrial revenue bond incentive, at least 20% of the proposed housing units must qualify as affordable housing, meaning that the units must be available to households earning less than 80% of the area median income. Or 3, to receive a 10-year leaseback industrial revenue bond incentive, at least 20% of the proposed housing units must qualify as workforce housing, meaning the units must be available to households earning 80.1 to 120% of the area median income. This means individuals can earn up to 20% above the area median income and still qualify for workforce housing. As part of the bond process, developers negotiate a pilot in lieu of taxes, that's what that stands for, agreement with certain public taxing entities. This is a negotiated payment agreement requiring the developer to make payments to the local government instead of regular property taxes. Developers must have pilot agreements with Fayette County Public Schools, Lextran, and the Lexington Public Library before LFUCG will enter into an industrial revenue bond contract with the developer. The first pilot proposal you will hear tonight comes from Related Affordable. This proposal focuses on the redevelopment of Rose Tower Apartments located between Main Street, Vine Street, and Rose Street. Sam Schoberg is here to give a presentation on behalf of Related Affordable. So Sam, I'm going to turn it over to you at this point. Dr. Matthews will control the presentation. Mr. Schoberg, just let her know when you wish for her to advance the slides.
We've got to unmute him, I believe. No, it's not letting me unmute you. I'm sorry. Let me see if there is probably something on your side on your phone that you'll have to press. Mr. Schoberg, it's not allowing me to unmute you. Let's see if I can look up.
On your phone.
Mr. Schoberg, could you try pressing star and then 6 on your phone?
How about now?
Yep, there you go.
All right, thank you. I think that instruction came at the very end of me being admitted to the meeting, and I totally missed the prompt. So thank you so much for that. And good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to present on tonight's agenda. So our project is the preservation of Rose Tower Apartments, which is a 168-unit majority senior affordable property in downtown Lexington. I'm sure folks have driven through the downtown central business district. Y'all are very familiar with this property. It has a very prominent location in downtown CBD. If you can go to the next slide, please. So I am coming to you tonight from our offices in the west side of Manhattan. I work for a company called Related Affordable. We are new to Kentucky. This will be our first transaction in the state. We have done affordable housing preservation in basically every neighboring state to Kentucky. So we're incredibly excited to be in your marketplace. This opportunity comes to us through a portfolio acquisition whereby we acquired the rights to acquire more than 50 properties, which we are now executing on the business plans for all of those assets. And we are one of the largest private affordable owner operators in the country. Our portfolio spans more than 55,000 units in more than 20 states. Our company was founded in the 1970s as an affordable housing developer, and that business line has continued throughout the history of the company. And so what Related Affordable is dedicated solely on the preservation of affordable housing. And I'll quickly read our mission statement, which is on this slide. So Related Affordable is dedicated to preserving and improving existing affordable housing communities, delivering high quality living environments while securing long-term affordability for residents. Next slide, please. And so the project that we're contemplating is the acquisition of Rose Tower Apartments. First and foremost, as a preservation owner operator, what we're going to do is preserve and extend the affordability. And so we will accomplish that in two different ways. First, of the 168 apartments here, 120 of them benefit from project-based Section 8. If folks are unfamiliar with that rental subsidy program, essentially the resident pays 30% of their individual household income towards rent, and the rental subsidy pays the balance. That's irrespective of the resident's income. And what I mean by that is if the resident made zero income, the rental subsidy would pay the entire rent. And so at closing, we would renew that project-based rental subsidy for a period of 20 years, which is the longest term allowable by HUD. Second, and very important on this particular project, is that we would be entering into new affordability restrictions, 30-year restrictions with Kentucky Housing Corporation. And those would be in conjunction with our application, which went in at the end of May for financing. And that is tax-exempt bonds and 4% low-income housing tax credits. And if we were awarded those resources from KHC, we'd be entering into, again, 30-year regulatory agreements. Those would cover 100% of the units at the property. So the 48 units that are not covered by Section 8 would enter into deed-restricted affordability for a period of 30 years. So currently those units are market units. And when I say market, I just mean that there is no income restriction tied to them. So we'd be essentially adding 48 new units into deed-restricted affordability. After acquisition of the property, Related Affordable would take over management with our captive management company. Our management company, again, is managing a very large portfolio of affordable housing across the country. They are best in class. So there'd be significant improvements to the day-to-day operations. And importantly, if we were granted the financial resources we've applied for to KHC, we'd be able to complete extensive renovations to the property to the tune of almost $9.5 million of hard costs. And what would that include? So in the units, we'd be doing in the kitchens, cabinets, countertops, brand new appliances. In the baths, we'd be replacing the tubs and surrounds. The bathrooms would get new vanities. We'd be installing grab bars. This is a predominantly senior property, so that's important for the residents here. We'd be reactivating the common areas, and that include updates to the office, community room, and fitness area, as well as the central laundry room. And then some of the back of house items would be full replacement of the HVAC, elevator cab replacement, hot water boilers would be replaced, and we'd be adding a backup generator, which the property currently does not have. So if this building were to lose power, the elevators would not function, which is a major liability in a senior property. Next slide, please. So some of the whys in terms of supporting this project. So first and foremost, we're securing senior designated low-income housing units in a downtown central business district, which is incredibly important for the community. These are the most at-risk people in your community. And typically, absent Section 8, these folks would not have any place to live. Many of them are either receiving a very small Social Security check on a month-to-month basis. Some of them are receiving no income. And so Section 8 properties like Rose Tower that are project-based Section 8 truly support these low-income folks in your community. For the residents, the large renovation I just described would be activating their amenity spaces. One thing I failed to mention on the prior slide is that we'd be adding community Wi-Fi here. That's both in the common areas and in the resident units, and that would be fully paid by the landlord. And then lastly, security improvements. This property is, again, in downtown central business district. So right now you can walk up to this property and essentially enter it at any time. That's a major problem for any residential apartment community, but particularly here where it's located in downtown central business district. So we'd be vastly improving the access control. That includes adding cameras and fob access, as well as improving the exterior lighting. Next slide, please. So Tracy gave a great introduction about the IRB program, but essentially what that will do is it will take the property off the tax roll. And because the property will not be on a tax roll, we will not pay taxes in sort of the ordinary course. So we are having to enter into these payment in lieu of tax or pilot agreements with each of the taxing jurisdictions. So that includes the school district as well as entities like Lextran and the library, the conservation district, the health department, and a couple of others. And so what we have proposed is here on the screen, but the main important takeaway here is that the year one tax payment will be well in excess of what the property currently pays. Just to provide some very specific numbers, so that the 2025 taxes that went to the school district were just over $44,000. So we are proposing a year one payment of $65,000, as well as an upfront impact fee, which is reflected here on the screen. So what this agreement is doing for the project is providing certainty. And essentially in exchange for that certainty, we are willing to increase the payment so that the school district and others are not subsidizing the project. And that certainty is incredibly important for our financing partners, because otherwise the project will just be subject to potential reassessment. And this allows us to go in with eyes wide open and certainty around what the financing looks like, and allows us to garner the maximum amount of financial resources necessary for the project, which will make both the acquisition and the renovation possible. And we provided numbers to Tracy and others that are much more detailed than what's on this page. But essentially over 15 years, which is the proposed term of the agreement, under the pilot scenario, the property will end up paying about $1.4 million of additional taxes compared to sort of a market tax projection. Next slide, please. So in our negotiations with Tracy over this agreement, one of the most important things that came out of it was that the school board and others, the library and Lextran, they don't really want to guess as to what is a good agreement, whether that $65,000 in year one plus the impact fee is enough to compensate compared to a market tax scenario. So what we've added to the agreement is what we're calling an end of term true up. And this ensures tax equivalency for the school district. So essentially, we will track every year because the process for tax reassessment in I think within the state, but definitely within Lexington, is an annual reassessment process. So we will know every year what the taxes would have otherwise been absent a pilot, and we will track that amount. And if at the end of the 15-year term, the pilot payments, the total of the pilot payments, which inclusive of the impact fee, is less than what the school district would have otherwise received absent the agreement, we will make an additional payment, a true-up payment to the school district. And in the scenario where the pilot payments are in excess of what would have otherwise been paid, no monies will be refunded to related. So we are truly protecting the school district's revenue over the term of the agreement. Next slide, please. I think if you click one more time, a picture will come up. Yeah, so this was actually meant to be an embedded video. It didn't work the first time around, so I'm not expecting it to work this time around. But this is just providing an example project that Related Affordable completed in what was also a new market to us, which was Delaware. And I picked this project specifically. It's actually a two-building project, but the building in the forefront there with the blue awning out front is actually the same exact construction type as Rose Tower. It may look familiar to some of you. It's a little bit more tan in color compared to Rose Tower, but this was 362 units of senior affordable housing in downtown Wilmington. Again, this was a new market to us at the time. It received a very similar, roughly $60,000 a door rehab that was completed within 12 months. It was a very successful project. And again, there was a video attached which showed some highlights from our grand reopening party, which was really fun. We had great weather that day, and we had a band and a big barbecue. We would look to do something similar at Rose at the completion of the project, but I can certainly share with this board a link to that video if anybody is curious to watch it. Next slide, please. And so our request from the board and from this group on the phone today is support for the pilot agreement that we have submitted to Tracy and others. So it will directly facilitate the preservation of these 168 units at Rose Tower. Those include the 120 that are currently receiving project-based rental assistance and the 48 market units, which we will then convert to deed restricted affordable housing if we are granted the resources from Kentucky Housing Corporation. It will support low-income seniors. Again, these are the most at-risk population in your community, and it will help to promote an economically diverse downtown. None of the residents currently living at Rose Tower will be asked to leave. They will not receive rent increases. The rental subsidy that's there will continue for the folks that are living there. And so just to get into logistics a little bit, the residents who are living there, they will be asked to temporarily relocate for construction, and then they will then return to their renovated unit. And all of the relocation costs will be borne by Related. That includes movers and packers, packing materials, hotel, stipend for food if their accommodations do not provide a kitchen for them to cook. This is something, the renovation of affordable housing, existing affordable housing that's occupied is all that we do. And so we've been through these large projects before and know how to manage them very well. So we think the residents will receive a significantly superior living experience to what they have now. When we first brought this project to the city of Lexington as a new entrant in your community, they were thrilled to hear from us. This property is known really for all the wrong reasons. It has a number of code violations that are open. The conditions in this apartment complex are currently not great. And so we're looking to make a real investment in the community while preserving it for the long term as affordable housing. And then I think something important for this group is that, as I mentioned before, this is a predominantly senior project. There are no students currently within the school district that reside at Rose Tower. All of the apartments are one bedroom. 120 of them are restricted for seniors or folks with permanent disability. It is possible in the future, I suppose, for maybe a single parent household with a school-age child to move to Rose Tower, but currently, as of today, there are no students in the district currently living at the apartment complex. So I just wanted to mention that. And that's that's the end of the presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions on any of it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Joberg. That was a really great presentation. ECC members, if you have any questions, please chime in and ask. Mr. Bruno, did you have something else to add before we ask our questions?
No, I was just going to introduce the next presenter.
Okay, we actually could hold our questions to the end, so if you could go ahead and do that.
Okay, sure will. The next pilot presentation you will hear tonight comes from UCD Midland. This proposal focuses on a mixed-use development on the corner of Midland Avenue and Winchester Road. Scott Shapiro and Andrew Ganal are here on behalf of UCD Midland. And this, if you're familiar, if you go past the hill on Midland as it turns into Winchester Road, there's that empty lot that used to be a stonecutter on the right, and that's the property that we're talking about. You'll see it in the pictures.
Great. Thanks, Tracy, for the introduction. Thanks, everyone, for inviting us here today. We're excited to talk to you about this project. 258 workforce apartments in Lexington's downtown. So as we'll talk about, there's affordable housing, and then there's workforce housing is sort of a layer just above that. So just to introduce us, so with me is Andrew Ganal. He's a home builder, an apartment builder from Kansas City, and who's done some work in Milwaukee as well, someone who I went to school with. And I'm here in Lexington. I moved here in 2011. My wife grew up here. I've got 3 boys who have gone through or are going through the Fayette County Public Schools. I've got my middle guy graduating from Henry Clay on Thursday. So we're pretty happy about that. So when I moved here, I worked for Mayor Gray for his 2 terms in the mayor's office, working on sort of policy projects. And sort of during the end of that, his second term, what I saw was that, yes, there was a lot of, Lexington seems to be thriving, certainly attracting lots of folks and keeping a healthy amount of folks coming out of the university and transient and BCTC. But there was a housing crisis that was building as I was leaving. And I think probably everyone's seen the report over the last year that the city is 22,000 units short of what it needs. And what does that mean? When you have housing shortage, we all know that sort of puts additional pressure on rents. So rents start to go up, housing prices start to go up, property taxes start to go up. People who want to live here aren't able to. So I decided to jump to the private sector to work on this problem. And I see Raisha's on the Zoom. I actually spoke to a group of UK Gatton School honor students about careers, and I'm reminded of that right now because I talked about having different chapters in one's career and how that can be great if you feel like you're going to go somewhere where you can make a difference, have an impact, go do it. And so that's really what I did, jumping into the private sector and working with my partner, Andrew Ganal, on this development. Next slide, please. So this housing shortage, we really needed. Here's the proof. There was one bit of proof. This was in the Herald Leader just a few weeks ago, that lack of supply of housing here in Lexington, especially housing that's affordable, big A affordable, little A affordable, putting pressure on rent. So if you can believe it, we had the 6th highest rent increases in the entire country last year, just below New York City. So the crisis is getting worse. We're seeing student housing being built in Lexington. There's some affordable housing being built, but we're really focusing on workforce housing. And workforce housing is really caters to folks who are between 80% of the area median income and 120% of the area median income. Next slide, please. So this is not just us saying there's a housing crisis, and it's not just in Lexington. It's really in different cities in Kentucky and around the country. It's just very expensive to build housing. So what the state did, recognizing this, is they passed a law or passed a change, a KRS change that allowed industrial revenue bonds to be used for dense housing. And they really wanted cities in Kentucky to start using this to try to increase the housing supply. And what the city of Lexington did is it took that legislation and they created their own program that Tracy described, where the use of industrial revenue bonds can incentivize housing by taking these properties off the tax rolls and then payments in lieu of taxes being negotiated in their stead. The city of Lexington did this, created this program just for, as I said, affordable housing and workforce housing projects. So next slide, please. So it's a pretty inclusive process. I sent you via Tracy, I sent you a letter that Councilmember James Brown wrote about sort of why the city council unanimously worked together with members from the community, and then unanimously passed this ordinance that was signed by the mayor to allow for these payments in lieu of taxes. And it was really an inclusive process. They worked with the Fayette County Public Schools. They worked with the library and with Lextran, because those are the three of the organizations that get the most in property taxes and in pilots. Next slide, please. So this program, having, being a former public servant, I can tell you there are very few programs that I've ever seen that has this and this level of vetting of projects. So we're just still on step one. For the previous project that you looked at, and for our project and subsequent projects, they have to be sort of preliminarily approved by staff, and then we talk to the Fayette County Public Schools and Lextran and the library about pilots. And if we're able to obtain agreements, then it goes to the next step, which is a further evaluation and the application process. Then the next step is that the finances of the project, the public benefit, are all evaluated by the Lexington Economic Investment Board. And if there's a positive vote there, then it goes on to the council, who again sort of evaluates the projects and votes, and then they have a vote on the pilots. So it's still in step two, but I wanted to show you exactly what we're talking about with the project. Can you move to the next slide? So this is a map of Lexington. You can see where the hill is on Midland Avenue. We think that's a beautiful building. We're pretty excited to be right next to it on Midland Avenue at the corner of Winchester. We love this location because it can create a sort of really a walkable situation for folks who work downtown or at UK or Transy. They can walk there, bike there on the Town Branch Trail. Really the center of the city's three main urban trails. The third one, the Brighton Trail, doesn't exist there yet. It's still out in Liberty, but it should be coming in to meet up with the other two trails. And we've committed to building the trail along the front of our property to accommodate it, as well as building a new Lextran stop right in front. So this the next slide is what the property looks like right now, right? It's just vacant land. It was Lexington cut stone, as Tracy said, for 60 years. I think before that there was gas station, plumbing supply, stores. I think they repaired trains there at one point. But they were old, really dangerous buildings when we purchased it, left by the cut stone folks, and we demolished those because they were a hazard. So it's a vacant lot right now. Next slide, please. So here's what we're hoping to build. So 258 homes. Again, these are participating in the city's program means that these apartments have to be, at least 20% of them have to be affordable for folks who make between 80 and 120% of the area median income. We're happy to say that the majority of our apartments will fit that income level. Next slide, please. So some of the community benefits, we're going to go through the pilot here on the next slide. But what we're doing is taking a blighted vacant property and building the kind of housing that Lexington's been hoping for ever since I've lived here. The pilot that we'll show you increases, it's a net increase of revenue to Fayette County Public Schools of $732,000 over the length of the program, the 10 years. So that's an increase over the current taxes that are currently being paid. And at the end of the day, this property will generate one of the highest revenues per acre in the whole city for the Fayette County Public Schools. And we'll be pretty proud of that when that happens. As I said, the majority of the apartments will be affordable for folks in that workforce income category. And we've created a program that we worked through with Tracy that's really geared towards early stage Fayette County Public School teachers. So early career teachers, if they are between the first and fifth year, we are giving them a $300 per month discount on their rent. And what that does is that ensures that these apartments are affordable. We took a look at what the sort of first year salaries are for Fayette County Public School teachers. And what this does is it makes sure that our apartments are affordable for these teachers. And we're pretty excited to work with the school system on that. And as we told Tracy, look, if there's a lot of interest in this program, if those 5, apartments are rented up really quickly, we're super interested in expanding the program. I think it'd be hard to think of tenants who we'd love to have more than public school teachers in the property. So what if you can just jump to the next slide. So this is the pilot that we're proposing for the schools that we worked through with Tracy. So the orange bars across the bottom are the current taxes that are paid and would be paid if this development were not to happen. And without a pilot agreement, this development will not happen. That's why we're here talking to you today. So in the first year of the pilot, we're proposing double the amount of revenue, more than double, $45,000. And that would go up to almost $150,000 per year by the end of the 10-year pilot. And so in total, it would be over $800,000 that the public school system would get. If you're talking about just over what it would get otherwise, if the development did not happen, it's $732,000. So this is the pilot that we're asking the board for approval for and talking to you about today. We're pretty excited about the about the project. We're pretty excited to bring some much needed housing to an affordable, little a affordable housing to Lexington. And we're super excited about the partnership with the schools for the discounted apartments as well. So that is our presentation, similar to what we gave to the board, and we'd love to answer any questions that you have about it.
So ECC members, Superintendent Liggins wanted us to kind of get to have a voice in this and to share an advisory opinion or recommendation to the board. So keep that in mind as you ask your questions or as you're formulating your thoughts. That is our ultimate goal after these presentations are over and after the discussion, is to vote on a formal recommendation on behalf of the ECC.
Yeah, I've got a question. I'm not sure if this would be for Mr. Shapiro or someone else. Ultimately, do we have any projection on if the apartments are built out next to the hill and you didn't get this waiver, what would the tax revenue to the district be if it was taxed normally?
So that's, I mean, the reality is this won't be built without the industrial revenue bond and the pilot. We first approached the city and the school system 2 years ago to try to start the discussion about the pilot. This is before the state law was passed and before the city developed a program. We thought potentially there was a way to use industrial revenue bonds. There's a part of the KRS that allows to be used for construction in central business districts. So we thought there was a chance that we would be able to use that for the project 2 years ago, and we started that discussion. But the reason that we're here today, we're very happy that the state passed the law. We're very happy that the city passed their program. And the reason why we're here today and why the project's not built already is that the project will not be built without the industrial revenue bond and the pilot. But I can tell you at the end of the 10 years the pilot, you know, the annual taxes, it's, you know, a lot, it depends on things that are outside of our control, but would be quite a bit above that 150,000 in the last year of the pilot.
To be a little more precise, it would be about double that number. So this represents a delta of about 50%.
Okay.
But that 50% is very important to us, as Scott mentioned.
And if I could chime in too, there are some, is it correct? There are some industrial revenue bond scenarios where the IRB essentially says the property is tax exempt, period. Right. And then the payments come in the form of the pilot. But the way it's arranged here is that a condition of the IRB is making these arrangements with the local taxing entities. And so it's one of the reasons, and I think Mr. Shapiro, a comment was made at a recent board meeting. It was like, oh, you're back again after, this has been in development or in conversation for how many years, and the land has sat undeveloped for how many years, do you know?
We bought the property well, we started working on it in 2022. There was a lot of work to do on the property before we could buy it. There was one reason why the IRB is required for, you know, and why so many cities across the country use this kind of program is because infill projects are so expensive. So, for example, if you look at our project, the land had a rail line all the way and back across it. It took 1.5 years to work with CSX and RJ Corman to get rid of that easement. It had 2 title issues. It had environmental issues that had to be cleaned up. It has the Town Branch culvert that sort of bisects the property, which we found out. So and it's an oddly shaped piece of land, right? It's this sort of stretched triangle. So part of the reason why so many cities use this program, I mean, this program that Lexington developed is similar to programs in many cities, Cincinnati and Des Moines and others, Cleveland, is that it provides more revenue for those who receive property taxes, and it allows for housing to be built.
Let me just add on 2 more points, because I think that is important. One is that just the term industrial revenue bond is like a terrible name, because it's not industrial, there is no revenue, and there is no bond. It's
like the Holy Roman Empire when I teach it to my students. Yeah.
You got it, exactly. Neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. But what it does do is it was mentioned earlier by Mr. Bruno, is it takes it off the tax rolls. So Chairman Murphy's exactly right. Like, if you don't enter a pilot, then the taxes actually go away entirely. But the whole project is structured around entering into these pilots beforehand, so that, you know, those taxes don't go to truly zero. But in our case, in the case of Mr. Soyerberg's proposal as well, in just about any project I think you'll see coming through in the future, is that even those first year taxes are going to be above what the property is currently paying today. So it's kind of like all upside in that sense, compared to other kinds of projects or other kind of uses for the land. And I guess one more point I'd like to make too, because you brought up the multiple years. Lexington did have a 40-year IRB program that was potentially available prior to this, but in 2025, they did put out the new program that kind of defined things much more clearly about what's eligible for 10 years, what's eligible for 15 years, and we're in the 15-year
10-year
bucket. What did I say? 10 years. Thank you. I'm sorry. 10 years. So it's actually a lot less generous than it was previous to that, but it's actually a much more, I think, fair program overall, given it went through that process.
Dr. Ellis, I see you have your hand raised.
So my very limited understanding of what I'm being presented is both programs already own the land, own the properties. You're just having to do this for the IRB in order for it to continue forward. You're not competing against anybody. This is your own project, and this is just to get the tax breaks because you're doing construction.
We do own the property, but to do the project as we've outlined and shown you, this is a must-have for the financing for the project. Yes. I don't want to speak for Sam. I think his situation might be a little different.
Yeah, Sam, do you have any input on the Rose Tower property? Is he muted again?
Reminder, Sam, that you'll have to press *6. I am muting just because we don't want the feedback to come because we're live streaming. But if you press *6, you can unmute.
He said *6 is not working.
So, Dr. Ellis, is your question for Sam if they currently own that property?
Yeah. Own / manage / are there any other competing entities for this kind of project for this land?
Okay.
And Sam, while we're figuring this out, if you want to type your answer into the chat so everybody can see it, I think that would be good to do at this time.
If I understood his presentation correctly, he believed they have an option to acquire on the property, but that means that they aren't competing against anybody else at this time. But he can hopefully, there you go.
Yeah, he said Related does not currently own Rhodes Tower. We have an option to acquire it, and that option will not be exercised without a tax agreement or a pilot agreement.
So basically, it is either you all are, this either happens or it doesn't, depending on whether we vote yes or no. There's no other options. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, and just to be clear, you're voting on a recommendation to the board. The school board will make the final determination.
And the board is one of several taxing entities that have to sign on to the agreement.
Yeah, and just for clarification as well, so there have to be pilot agreements with the school board, with Lextran and the library, but those agreements don't all have to look the same, Dr. Ellis. They just have to have an agreement with each one of those.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. Raisa, your hand is up next.
Perfect. Thank you both for your presentation, Scott. It's great to see you. And so I appreciate you mentioning engaging with students. And so
Raisa, it's kind of breaking up a little bit. We missed what you said.
how about let me change audios and go to Jeanette and I will come back.
Okay, thank you. Jeanette, you're up.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, I just wanted to know for the properties, what is that rent going to look like? Like, I know that we got some numbers of projections of like what it, total, but like, what are those units? What are you going to rent them at?
Andrew, do you want to take that? Yep, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute there. So there's going to be a variety of different unit sizes, but they'll likely start around the $1,500 a month point and go up to $2,500 or so for a 2-bedroom. So those are consistent with, there'll be some higher, some lower, but those are kind of the target zone for our rents. And if you look at new construction projects, so we are new construction, those would be similar to anything there.
All right, I think we have Sam as well now. I think his audio is working.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me now? Thank you. I know the question was mainly geared toward the other project, but at the affordable project, the units that benefit from project-based Section 8 will continue to pay 30% of their individual household income toward rent, and the subsidy contract will pay the balance. The 48 units that are entering into affordability are currently being marketed at $1,000, which is actually below the tax credit rent for that unit type in this area, and they will continue to be marketed at $1,000.
Does that answer your question, Jeanette? Perfect. Raisa, are you back? Is Raisa back?
I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. So Scott, I appreciate you talking about engaging with students. And so this brings me to my question, because the Hill is so close to both apartment spaces. Have we thought about each organization or company entering a formal partnership with the Hill to develop curriculum, provide work-based learning opportunities, or support student leaderships opportunities to really talk about the professional development opportunities for students who want to enter this type of work?
You mean entering it like during construction, for example, or?
Yeah.
We'd love to talk about that. We've got a great general contractor who's a local company on board, and we can talk with him about that. It totally makes sense. We love being right next to the Hill. We think it's a beautiful building, and it's a great group of kids who are going to be there. Yeah, we'd love to talk. Tracy, if you can put us in touch with whoever, we'd love to explore that.
I can certainly do that. It would definitely align with some of the pathways that are happening at the Hill currently.
And then my second question is, I think, Scott, I heard you mention 5 apartments for teacher discount. first, how are we defining what teachers are? I don't know if that means paraeducator. And then is this 5 apartments, and then if one person moves out, then there's another person that has that same discount, or is there a number provided to staff members each year?
So we were thinking of this as 5 teachers who were in their first through fifth year of teaching. We took a look at the salaries and wanted to sort of make sure that the rents were affordable. We used that same sort of 30% figure that Sam referenced. That's sort of the HUD standard, right? You don't want to spend more than 30% of your income on rent. And so we put that into a formula and realized that we would, to make sure that first year teachers were below that number, we would need to discount the rents by $250. But we decided to go ahead and just make sure there was things weren't tight, and we're offering a $300 discount for 5 teachers in the program. And so we, as we said to Tracy and at the school board meeting, we would love to see this get used. We would love to see if there's a lot of teachers clamoring for this. We told Tracy and we told the board, we're happy to talk about expanding it as well. Again, I can't think of better folks to have in our building than public school teachers.
I agree. And I will say this as a mom of a kindergartner who just had her graduation ceremony.
Congrats.
Thank you. Are just as important. And I don't think the teacher could have supported without a paraeducator. And I think their salaries are less. And so I would challenge us to think a little bit about that 5 number, but also how we define who qualifies for this program. But I think it's a great program. I support it. And I love to see that we are being intentional about the partnership, but I would challenge the number and who's defined as a teacher.
Appreciate that. We can talk to Tracy about that further.
Yeah, would you make a suggestion of how to expand it? Because I think we're open to that idea for sure.
Perfect. I am not great on thinking on the spot, Andrew, but I hope that there's a great opportunity for that. Because initially I would love to kind of see like each year there's a different number, but also math is not my strength. And so I don't want to say anything that my colleagues have to support. So.
And I do think one thing we wanted to look at was making this almost really easy from just easy to understand and easy for compliance perspective, which is why we just kind of picked a round number and we say, okay, like instead of asking everybody for their pay stubs and prove how much you make and what if you get a raise, it's just more of like, hey, you are a valued community partner in the school district. You've supported us in this project. Here's the program. So kind of just make it straightforward. So I don't personally have any issue with increasing that number, either the number of people who can make themselves avail themselves of that discount, as well as who exactly qualifies. If it's, just you work for FCPS, period, that's fine. It originally did kind of have the kernel of starting in this sort of early career teacher mode, but I don't think think that that's like the only thing we're interested in helping.
I think that's a great framework. Sorry, Tracy, as a starting point, but yes, I appreciate there's flexibility for us to think about that a little bit more.
Yeah, we've got to think about the different salary ranges for our different educators in the school. It wouldn't be feasible or equitable for it to all be starting that $50,000 mark, I think is what Ms. Jones is saying.
Thank you for your question. Real quick, guys, we do have a few more questions. We're going to answer a few things. First of all, I just want to clarify for the ECC that both of these projects can happen. These are not competing with each other. And we can independently support either one, or we could support both in our recommendation. The second thing, our meeting is set to end at 7:45, which I don't think is going to happen. So I would ask for a member to make a motion to extend, instead of having to do like the little cat and mouse thing of like just 10 minutes at a time. My recommendation is that we extend until at least 8:30 for now, but I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
All right,
to go to 8:30.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Perfect. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, we'll move into a time of voting. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Meeting is extended until 8:30. With that being said, Scott, you are up next.
Yeah, just a couple quick points to make sure I'm understanding correctly. On the Rose Tower apartments, so this one's for Sam, it sounded like after the renovations, the people who are already covered by this rent program will not experience a rent increase, because if they have a rent increase on their apartment, that would be picked up by, if they were paying less than 30%, I guess they wouldn't pay more than 30% of their income. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So the formula for any individual household's rent, if they benefit from those 120 apartments, does not change at all.
Okay, great. And then for the other project, when the 10-year period is over, then we revert back to you're just a taxable property, or how does that work? I'm less familiar with these pilot.
You got it exactly correct. It goes back.
At the end of the pilot agreement, we go back to full taxing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So sorry. Jeanette, your hand is up next.
You're muted.
When I think of affordable housing or workforce, housing, I think about maybe that 60% instead of that 80 to 120. So I'm curious how you got to that range. And then just in doing really quick numbers, the least that you could make would be 52,000 and be able to, 55,000 and be able at the 80%, right? 80% annual income, 55,000. Your affordable monthly rent would look like 1,375. As an individual of 120, at 120%, your annual income would have to be 85,000, and your affordable monthly rent would be 2,125. So I'm just curious how we got to the 80%, 20% income levels.
We follow what the city's program states. So that's what was determined by that city group with the community members, and decided that's what the numbers that they're going to refer to.
Gotcha.
Yeah, when LFUCG constructed this formula, Jeanette, those are the ranges that they selected. It was not up to the developers.
Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, thank you.
I think it also reflects the HUD definition of workforce housing.
That's right. And one more just addition onto that. So as you are probably aware, there's multiple different kinds of housing out there. This is the only type of incentive that applies for our project. More affordable, those oriented towards 60% or under, typically have many more layers of financing available to them. So Kentucky housing tax credits, private donation, there's a whole other slew of things that allow you to make a project work for that. And that's not what we're able to do with this project.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Smith, you're up next.
Yes, I just got a quick question, especially from a community focused lens, especially with the Midland property. Have you guys thought about the considerations for increased traffic, right? And what are some of you guys' plans as it relates to that?
We talked to the city about that. What we're hoping for, to be completely honest, is that I'm sorry. We would love for folks to use the trails and the public bus system. Folks who live in Midland Station, to not add very much to traffic. But what I was surprised to learn about about sort of development is that housing has the least impact on traffic as opposed to office and commercial retail. If you think about it, you really only sort of usually leave your house in the morning and maybe you come back after work. So maybe 2 trips, maybe 3 trips. But if this corner were, had an office use or retail use, or even, a gas station is probably, one use for this property on the way out of town. That would be just, orders of magnitude more sort of trips and traffic to the property.
Just one more thing I'd add too is we do have entrances and exits onto both Midland and Winchester, which are decent sized roads. And one of the things that really led to us getting strong neighborhood support from places like Mentel or Belcourt is that we're not putting a lot of traffic into their neighborhood. It's really focused onto those frontage roads that are arterial roads in front of the building, and not, again, putting a lot of traffic onto like neighborhood streets.
And yeah, that's a good point. When we talked to the William Wells Brown Neighborhood Association, they were excited about the project, and they wanted us to work with the city traffic folks to see if we could calm traffic on Midland Avenue. I think that more sort of ins and outs on that road will necessarily start to calm traffic. But there's also a study that the state is doing that has to do with Winchester Road and that intersection. So the hope is that provides some traffic calming measures as well.
And we're pushing for that as best we can, because it would be we think that's important to us too. We want to make it very safe to walk across the street to the Met, walk across the street to Isaac Murphy Park. I mean, you name it.
Yeah, and then one last thing from an economic benefit standpoint for the community, and of course with this development, and looking at job creation, have you guys? Can you expand a little bit about that as far as the job creation and economic benefits associated with this project?
Sure. So this will create hundreds of temporary construction jobs. We're excited about that. The construction period is over 2 years. We also will hire, I think, 4 or 5 people who will work as on the property. But we've got a commercial space on the property, or in one of the buildings, that we're in negotiations with one sort of local nonprofit to expand and accommodate their 17 employees. That's not a done deal for sure, but we're working really hard to try to get them in the building. We think they'd be a great fit.
And then there's a broader impact that's a little bit tougher to measure directly, but it's that aspect of Lexington needs high quality housing, ideally infill, as opposed to continuing to kind of push out into the more suburban areas and, God forbid, past the boundary. So that's why the city has been really trying to say infill housing is what we need as an important part of our overall economic story.
That's right. And there was another study that we worked with Commonwealth Economics, and they calculated this enormous impact on local businesses. So the Met, DV8, Manchester, all the folks down in National Avenue. So we're going to be bringing 300 people to this property, who want to go have coffee at DV8 in the morning, maybe walk over to Mirror Twin after work. That's why we've got a letter from, I don't know how many dozens of businesses on National Avenue who are super excited for the development to happen.
Thank you all so much for that. Dr. Matthews, I see your hand is raised. Real quick, I just wanted to say to ECC members, for the sake of time, I am going to accept the motion. If you raise your hand from any ECC member to go ahead and formally recommend on behalf of the ECC to approve either of the projects or both. So you could just raise your hand and make that motion.
Trace,
Yes,
I'd like
ma'am.
to ask one more question, and I may have missed it because I'm just hopping on. But with these projects, how are you deciding who is doing construction? is that process being made through an equitable lens? Interested.
Did I cut out?
Yes, sorry. Could you repeat that, or at least the end of the question?
Yeah, when it comes to like have you already picked, what construction wise, like this whole project in general, is it being looked at through an equitable lens, or is it going to be looked at through an equitable lens when you're deciding who does construction, etc., through this project?
Well, thank you for the question. We have picked a general contractor. It's a local firm, Brett Construction. You need a contractor who is familiar with this kind of building type. It's a 5-story building, so and it consists of 2 different parts that are a little bit higher on the difficulty scale. We did talk earlier in the meeting about having discussions with the Hill in terms of like kind of plugging our general contractor in with some of the pathways that the Hill is intended to support. That was a very preliminary discussion, but it's one we're excited about. So I think that's probably where we're most looking at this as having that kind of community benefit that I think you're looking for.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
And then in terms of Rose Tower, we are applying for financial resources from Kentucky Housing Corporation. So the project must abide by all of the technical services requirements that Kentucky Housing publishes on an annual basis.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Dr. Matthews, you're up next.
Thank you, Vice Chair Williams. If it's acceptable, I would like to read in a letter that I shared with the Equity Council, but it was shortly before the meeting, so you may not have had a chance to see it yet. So it was a letter from our council member at large, James Brown. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to read it and share if that's okay.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay. To whom it may concern, I want to share why I supported alongside the mayor and council the recent enhancement to Lexington Industrial Revenue Bond, IRB, program to better support affordable and workforce housing. At its core, this effort was about responding to a very real and growing need. When people cannot afford to live where they work, it affects every aspect of a community's long-term success, from attracting and retaining talent to supporting families and sustaining economic growth. Rather than create an entirely new program, we strengthen a tool we already know works. Historically, industrial revenue bonds have played an important role in driving economic development, supporting job creation, and encouraging private investment throughout our community. With these updates, we intentionally connected the same economic development tool to meaningful housing outcomes. Under the revised framework, projects must now demonstrate clear public value. That includes mixed-use development, on-site job creation, and measurable economic impact. Just as importantly, developers seeking access to the program's incentives must commit to housing affordability and workforce housing goals. This creates a balanced approach, one that offers meaningful incentives while also ensuring accountability, transparency, and measurable community benefit. While we also establish a clearer pathway for other local taxing entities to participate in projects that may not otherwise be financially feasible, particularly complex infill and redevelopment efforts where financing gaps are often the greatest barrier to success. Through my experience working on the Affordable Housing Governing Board and the Infill Redevelopment Steering Committee, and representing districts with significant redevelopment opportunity, I have seen firsthand how critical strong public-private partnerships are to getting transformational projects across the finish line. This action also builds on a broader commitment our council has made over the past several years. We have strengthened tools like the Public Infrastructure Program, expanded support for the Affordable Housing Fund, and now modernized the IRB program because no single solution alone will meet this moment. If we want to expand opportunity and ensure Lexington remains a place where people of all income levels can live, work, and thrive, it will take collaboration, innovation, and sustained partnership across the public and private sectors. Sincerely, James Brown, council member at large. I just wanted to share his letter with the ECC.
Thank you so much, Dr. Matthews. Kaliza, you will be next. And again, I would urge any ECC member to raise their hand to put a motion on the floor to move this conversation along. Kaliza, you have the floor.
Thank you. Also excited about this program as well. I just had a couple of quick questions. I think you guys mentioned that there were three entities or organizations that you were having conversations with us, LexFriend, National Library, because these are the main taxing entities. What happens in regards to the other entities that were originally receiving a portion of the property taxes that were being paid? And are any of them going to be wildly affected by this change?
I can speak to that. We're going to talk to all of them. It's required that you have pilot agreements with the three largest ones, the schools, LexTrend, and the library, to move to the next step, to even be able to apply for the program. And so that's what we're doing now. But we would apply. We will talk to all of the taxing jurisdictions for sure.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And then for the applicants that you guys are going to have, like, for example, I think that there were going to be 5 teachers, or we'll define later what that might look like. How are you guys planning to manage the what I would anticipate large number of applications that will in fact come your way as a result of this program?
Well, I hope we get a large number of applications. I think we hadn't fully thought that through, and we'd have to work with, I'd like to work through that with Tracy or whoever he designates. That would be a great problem to have, for sure. And we'll have to have a thoughtful process for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Jeanette, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo the sentiment of another ECC member, and I agree that the 5 units feels limited relative to the scale of the project. So expanding that component would be, I think, a better alignment, for the project, which states workforce housing as a primary goal.
Vice Chair Williams, on that note, I would love to make a motion for the ECC to support the recommendation with the addition of an additional or increased number of teachers housing, and also a clear outline of partnership with the Hill.
Okay, and just to clarify, this specific motion is just for the Midland property.
Oh, I would put in my motion for both properties.
Okay, but for Midlands to have that amendment.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, Andrew, can you confirm? Well, Andrew's, the Rose property is for ages 55 and older, so therefore it would not be applicable to teachers more than likely. That is correct.
The 120 units that fall under the Section 8 contract are restricted to seniors age 62 plus or folks with permanent disability. That's a requirement for those 120. The other 48 are, if we are provided approval by KHC, are going to be restricted at 60% of AMI for tax credit purposes. And so I believe that annual income for a one-person household is about $43,000 a year.
But is there an age limit associated with those 48 house apartments?
There will not be an age limit for those 48, no.
Okay. Thank you. Trace, I want to take back my motion. I want to ask a clarification question. And I know we are guessing, but for FCPS staff members, what is the typical range for a para educator and a first year educator?
Are you asking me? Sorry.
Yes, Tracy.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So 50,000. I'd have to check, Ms. Jones, on the paraeducator, but I can definitely get back to you on that.
is it safe to make the assumption that it's probably low?
Oh yeah, it's definitely lower than the first year teacher salary.
Okay.
The classified position compared to a certified position those two are different job descriptions and titles and certifications.
I can share the district average. The district average is 32,721 annually.
Thank you so much.
I think it was you, Raisha, before you had recommended maybe taking a look to expand the definition of teacher so that it would include para. Is that part of the amendment that you wanted to make as well to go forth with your recommendation?
Yes.
And
go ahead, Board
also,
Chair.
just to make sure to clarify, my understanding of the Midland project right now is that indicated early career FCPS educators. So if you want to, which making the suggestion, I completely appreciate that conversation and agree with the sentiment of expanding it. So just if you want to keep the language about early career or expanding it, including other types of educators. So just be mindful of that as well.
Okay, so Rice, I'm going to ask you again to formulate your motion for us.
Okay. I think there's a hand. You can. What were we going to say before I make a motion?
This one, for the additional units, I think on the Roseland, is that going to be the applicants that come in? Are they going to look at that from an equitable lens too, for the number of applicants that will come in that are open?
Well, I'd just like to make a general comment, and I am by no means a compliance expert. We have a large department here at Related who's doing that. But in terms of creating specific set-asides for FCPS staff at any level, that is going to have to interplay with the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. It will have to interplay with HUD's rules under Section 8. It would have to interplay with the compliance requirements of Kentucky Housing Corporation. So that could become potentially complicated. I'm not saying it's impossible, but these 48 units currently exist at the property. They're not new construction. They will be significantly renovated, and we will be restricted to that tax credit maximum rent at 60% of AMI, as well as the income restriction at that level. And those requirements are already coming on as part of the financing that we're applying to Kentucky Housing. But I am a little bit wary of adding a public educator set aside because of the interplay with all of those other organizations, and I'm not certain that it's possible. But again, I'm not a compliance expert, and it may be. So I just wanted to put that forth while the motion is being sort of thought up. Thank you.
Okay, so Raisa, is your motion for the ECC to formally recommend the approval of the Rose Street? Not Rose Street, but the Rose pilot program as is, and the Midland pilot program with additional early career teachers and educational support staff units being set aside?
I think it's probably best that we separate the two.
Okay.
And so I'm formulating in my head a motion to support the recommendation for the Midland project with the amendment to revisit how we define who qualifies for the teacher apartments, and also the number of apartments available for teachers, and to ensure that there is a formal agreement with the Hill.
Okay, so it's for us to approve, or not approve, but to recommend that with those things to be considered.
Yes.
Okay.
Vice Chair Williams.
Call.
Can
Yes,
I make a really quick recommendation?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that I'd like to make this as a recommendation. I think one thing that we can also consider is your recommendations whether you approve or not approve, I think that can be a very solid recommendation. The additional things that you want to be considered, I think that can go to the board, and you have the board chair, it's on here as well. So there are some things that you've already said that if you feel strongly about that the board can take in consideration as they move toward a final decision. But I don't think you have to embed it within your recommendation. I think that just to make it clearer for how the Equity Council is leaning one way or the other, if we can just, that's just my recommendation, is that we keep the recommendation pretty solid for or against.
Okay.
With that knowledge, I would like to make a motion to approve both pilot programs, to recommend to the board to approve both pilot programs.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, we'll move into a time of voting. And I would like to remind ECC members, legally, to be compliant, we need our cameras on for this vote. So please, if your camera is off, please turn it on.
Sorry, Trace, I did have a comment about it. I just want us, I want us to just consider what would be a minimal, and we don't have to decide this now, but just so it's in the back of our head, if we know how many units that's going to be, 5 is not even 2% of what is there. So like, what is a minimal commitment, a strong commitment? You know, what does an exceptional commitment look like? Because if we're saying increase it, or is it 6, 2% of the whole property? I just, at this time, I don't think I have enough, and I'm very much in favor of these projects, but I don't think I have enough information to give a solid vote.
Okay, understood. We do have a motion on the floor, so we are going to proceed by taking the vote, but I do appreciate you voicing that before we go ahead.
Still under the discussion portion of the motion, I would like to agree with what Jeanette said. I just don't think that I have enough information.
Okay, so ECC members, there is an option for us to table this. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the board is voting next Monday. Is that correct?
No.
We have the option to vote next Monday. It
Right.
depends. Board members are in the process. And sorry, I spoke out of turn. It's okay. Do you mind if I answer that question, Trace? Chairman?
Oh, yes, please go ahead.
We have the option to. It's on the agenda, but board members are in the process as well, just as part of, you all are discussing this here tonight, of compiling questions and submitting them to Mr. Bruno. And some of the questions and concerns raised here tonight have been, will be included among those questions from the board as well. So we could vote next Monday. We may not vote next Monday. So that's at the discretion and will of the board.
Board Chair Murphy, could I request that when you receive answers, that those are shared with the Equity Council as well?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. As soon as I believe board members have until the close of business tomorrow to submit questions, and then that gives Mr. Bruno and our partners time to compile those. And as soon as those are compiled, we can certainly share those. And Mr. Bruno, if you're amenable to it, and again, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I'm sure that if there are members of this committee that have questions they haven't thought of tonight and after this meeting, or follow-up questions, submit those to Dr. Matthews, and she can get them to Mr. Bruno or our partners, and we can add them to the list of questions. Would that be amenable
That sounds
to?
good. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is Mr.
We can
Shapiro
make
still?
We can make
Is
that
Mr. Shapiro still on?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Do you have on the question of available units for educators? Is that a figure that you could pin down more precisely? What would be the steps involved? Like, who would you have to discuss to about expanding that number?
As we said at the board meeting, we're happy to talk about expanding the number. We hope that all those slots and more are filled up and we expand the program. Is there a number that, we're just based on this conversation, we can talk about, 10 as a expanded number. But we hope that the value of this development is not, it doesn't just rest. We're happy to provide this program. Kind of excited about it. But the value of the set of homes that we're going to be building, I think I just don't want it to rest on this one part of the program. We're hoping to house hundreds and hundreds of people, and a number of teachers as well. But I'd love to hear folks' thoughts about a number on this call. If 10 would be the right number, we'd be happy to talk about that. Are there any suggestions?
Just really quick, if we did a percentage of the units, if we're talking about what a minimum credible commitment would be, it would be 15. Strong is looking like 25 and exceptional is looking like 50. So I don't know if we could fall somewhere in between minimal and strong, between that 20 and 25 commitment. And I only speak for myself based on, and I'm no math expert by any means. I just looking at the number of units that you guys have and the level of the project and what you're calling it, I think it needs a stronger workforce component for it to feel feasible.
Well, there is a much stronger workforce component to it. I just want to make sure that that we're all clear on that the vast majority of the apartments in this building will fit into the workforce income category. It's not just the ones that we're talking about for teachers, not just the minimum that the city has required to go through this program, which is 20%, so a little more than 50 apartments. It's the majority of the apartments in these buildings that do fit into the workforce income category.
Absolutely. And again, I support efforts to expand workforce housing and increase housing options downtown. Just however, based on information presented to me tonight, I would like to see a stronger affordability commitment, whatever that looks like to you and the board.
And my understanding, so Mr. Shapiro, the set asides, so at least 20% of the facilities have to be AMI, right? And I'm sorry, again, if I'm speaking out of turn. We could very well be in a situation where there are educators that may not fall within that restriction, right? But these would still be set aside. So could there be a potential that someone who qualifies initially gets suddenly loses eligibility to be in that facility or in that residential threshold, or can they continue occupying that space?
We want to avoid that. And I'm sorry, my camera is gone. I think what we're talking about is just a special program in addition to the city's requirement for the 20% workforce housing, just targeted towards FCPS employees. And as we said before, we are very amenable to the idea of expanding that beyond just teachers to include paraeducators. I think that's something we can agree to right now. But for that category, they're going to get a special $300 discount, which we think whatever they're, just calculated off of some average salaries, helps get them below an even deeper level. If there's, to do something with that at a much broader scale would require a much deeper pilot. So in other words, reducing what we're able to pay to the schools by a significant amount. What we try to do is do everything, right? So it's like, okay, meet the city's goals, help out FCPS, and pay a pilot that we can afford given what it costs to build the building. So So hopefully that, I think without doing much analysis, going from 5 to 10 works for us for sure. It's if you go above that, and again, this is just for the FCPS employee portion, then I think we're talking about potentially having to renegotiate what those pilot amounts are and going deeper in terms of what we ask for. But I think if we set aside 10 for FCPS plus a broader number for workforce housing, that meets what we interpreted as the spirit of the program. And then also with the Hill, I don't know if we can commit to exact details here, but it's something that both Scott and I care about, and I think is a perfectly thing to have written into an agreement that we will do that as part of our commitment for this project.
Yeah, I would be hesitant to guarantee a partnership with the Hill and the development just due to the fact that we've not talked to anybody at the Hill. We don't know capacity or pathway, capacity at this point. So we would definitely, pair them up, make that connection, and then hope something worked out from there.
So real quick,
Board-
ECC members,
Board Chair Murphy, I'm sorry, Vice Chair. Board Chair Murphy, would you be opposed to doing an official vote at the action meeting on June 22nd?
I'm not opposed at all if the rest of the board's amenable to that. Yeah.
Okay.
My understanding, Mr. Bruno, is we're not operating under our developing partners on here can correct me. We're not operating under any stringent timeline as far as the planning meeting. Is that correct?
Correct.
Perfect.
Okay, great. I wanted to throw that out there.
ECC members, we do have a motion on the floor, but someone can move to table that if you all want to. So the floor is open for someone to move to lay the previous motion on the table, and then we'll have to vote on that.
I think we still might have Trace. I think there might be a few hands up.
Okay. Scott, the floor is yours. I just wanted to urge ECC members before we get too far into conversations that we do need to address the motion on the floor.
Yeah, and mine is a discussion just related to this, just to understand what the board would actually be voting on. Is there an actual contractual agreement that is being voted on here, or is it more that they're voting on the spirit of pursuing what is being presented on here?
Are you speaking about, Mr. Horn, are you speaking about the school board?
Yeah, for both of these proposals, is there an actual contractual agreement that's been written up that is that something that could be shared with us, just so we can see how these things play out in terms of the paperwork?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's essentially at the surface level exactly what was presented as far as the payments over a period of time. Also, I think it's worth noting that should the board vote on this, it still requires, it doesn't mean that it will happen. It still requires the other entities also to enter into it as well. So it just says that they've got one check mark off. And so, yeah, but we certainly don't mind sharing that with you.
And not to overstep, but it sounds like, and I don't know if Mr. Williams, if you want to address this, but it sounds like the additional information is asked for about Midland. So, I mean, you could still vote on your recommendation for Rose Tower tonight, or if you wanted to table both of those, I just want to make that clear. Those are two separate recommendations that are going to go to the board.
That is a great point. And I would like to remind ECC members, we currently have 15 minutes left in the meeting. Before we try to vote and make a new motion on that, I would like for us to address this so we could follow Mr. Bruno's advice. We could go ahead and amend the previous motion to proceed with recommending the Rose project, but we do need to address the motion on the floor. So I'm open to that.
I would like to make a motion to table both projects.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right.
Am I allowed to interject here? And I know I'm not a member of the board, but I would like to provide one point of clarification. And again, the Rose Tower project is obviously an existing piece of real estate. It's an existing affordable property. It's operating as apartment complex right now. And, our project is beholden to the timelines that are prescribed by KHC in their award process. And as I mentioned, we have already made application to KHC at the end of May. Their award process is happening by the end of July. And KHC is well aware that we're pursuing benefits under the IRB program. We've been encouraged by folks in Lexington and at KHC to pursue those benefits. But they are going to be looking for some inclination as to how that's going, likely in advance of their award period. And these two projects keep getting presented together. Obviously, they're utilizing the same expanded IRB program. They're seeking different terms. They're totally different projects and different types of projects. One is the acquisition and rehab of existing housing, extension of affordability. One is creating an entirely new thing, which is great. And I'm glad there are developers like Andrew and Scott out there pursuing these types of transformational projects. Ours is transformational in a different way. And I would just ask that folks please keep in mind that they are separate. And while Andrew and Scott are likely incurring costs while they have a tied up piece of land and would like to move their development forward, they are not beholden to a state agency who has a very prescribed timeline for projects. And should our project not be ready by that July 31st date, which is published in the KHC materials, they will likely award those financial resources to a project that is ready. So I would just like to implore folks to think about that a little bit. To add some color there very quickly, we were attempting to apply for these resources last year. KHC did not make available tax-exempt bonds to acquisition rehab projects. They geared them all toward new construction, which, we do not dictate the priorities of the state agency, but that was their priority last year. This year, they seem to have more of a priority on acquisition rehab. So we now have our opportunity to make this project happen for Rose Tower. So I please implore folks to keep in mind that these are totally separate projects. It seems that many of the concerns here are related to the Midland project, which is understandable as it's new construction. So I'm just really asking folks to keep that in mind and to keep in mind that we are beholden to the state agency and their timelines. We cannot sort of ask KHC to provide us with an extension, that they will just simply move on to the next project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sam, I appreciate your input. However, you have to understand that we as an ECC, if this is our first time hearing this, and so in good faith, I would hate to rush an answer based off of information just given tonight. But like you said, with Rose, I don't mind voting on that. However, with Midland, I don't feel comfortable. And honestly, it's just best practice not to present something and vote on something the same, like within the same hour or so. So, and hi, Sam, I'm Kamisha. I'm the ECC chair. I didn't give a proper introduction. But yeah, in good faith, I don't feel comfortable giving a yes or a no.
Okay, so ECC members, we do have a motion to table the discussion on both projects. We're going to move into a time of voting. All in favor of tabling the discussion for both projects for recommendation to the board, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. The discussion will be tabled. Thank you all so much for all of your input and questions. Mr. Smith, I see you have your hand up.
Oh no, we're kind of in the discussion. I just had just a quick question as relates to not only the IRBs, but I think I overheard that one project was also being funded by New Market Tax Credits. I just want to just confirm that I was true in hearing that, because both are both heavily regulated, right? Especially when you're dealing with New Market's tax credits and CFIs and all that. But I thought I heard that earlier. I just wanted to make sure that
Is there a way for ECC members to submit questions that we could get answered after this meeting? What's the best way for us to do that?
Yes, if you'll send those to Soraya, she'll make sure that they're answered. She'll work with Tracy Bruno.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Andrew, I see your hand is up before we move on.
I guess I was a little bit trying to understand where we go from here. If someone would be able to summarize the situation and what we're being asked to respond to.
I could step in here if you want me to, Trace.
Yep, go ahead.
So my understanding, as I shared earlier, board members right now are in the process of gathering questions, compiling questions, and getting answers to those. A list of those questions and the subsequent answers will be provided to the ECC and publicly. And then likewise, members of the ECC, any additional questions that you have beyond what was discussed tonight will be submitted to Dr. Matthews, who will then coordinate with Mr. Bruno to get answers to those. And likewise, those questions and answers will be compiled and shared with this body and the board. So some of those questions will probably require Mr. Bruno collaborating with our partners. And then they can help inform any additional discussion that happens during the board's planning meeting on June 8th, next Monday. And then hopefully everyone will be in a good position to feel like they can make a decision between the planning session on June 8th with those questions answered, and then action at the board's action meeting at the end of the month on the 29th. So that's kind of the cadence that I envision, or like that's what I gathered from the conversation that I just observed here, which I do appreciate the conversation. Like I said, I appreciate the sentiment that this is something we want time to get answers. I put links in the chat to the actual pilot agreements. Those were part of the board's May agenda. So those will take you to a PDF of the actual pilot agreement. We can also, I don't know if you all do have copies, but these were also on the May agenda, copies of the presentations that were presented tonight. Dr. Liggins, if we can make sure that they get a copy of those presentations as well, and that will help too. So does that help clarify kind of the next steps?
For me, yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Board Chair Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
Raisa, I'm about to call on you in just a second. I would ask an ECC member to extend our time, please.
Move that we extend to 8:45, 9. What are we thinking?
I would say 9, just to be safe, Scott.
I move we extend to 9.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, we'll move into a time of voting. All in favor of extending until 9 p.m., please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, Raisa, the floor is yours.
Perfect. I want to preference Andrew Scott. I appreciate the conversations. I know Scott personally in interaction, and so as we think about support, this is a project I do support, and having someone with from a Lexington background to understand our school district and also our city as well too. And so I do want to note that I probably am getting caught on numbers, but I think retention is super important and providing individuals with a safe place to live while they also support our children. And with that being said, Sam, I know that you talked about it's very hard for us to think about those 48 apartments, and it's hard to say only 20% or 2% can go to our educators. I don't recall in the presentation what sort of community engagement and involvement your organization has thought about as you think about partnerships. And so I would love to kind of hear if you have something, or maybe if you presented that already, I can take a look at the documentation and you can just share that information. But I intentionally want to think about why Lexington and how are we going to support our community, and also our schools as well.
So just for the sake of time, I'm going to ask that the rest of the ECC questions be sent to Dr. Matthews, and she will make sure to get us the answers. And this is an ongoing conversation, and it's been a great conversation thus far. I definitely appreciate the input from the ECC members and our amazing guests. But at this time, we will be moving on to our next action item.
And if I
Which-
need to write that question up, Trace, I will too, if that is best for.
Yes, please, if you could do that and send it to Dr. Matthews. Thank you. All right, our next action item is the adoption of the 2024-2025 Opportunity Index, also known as the Equity Scorecard. ECC member Scott Horn sent that out earlier, but I will turn the floor over to him to present on this further.
Thank you, Trace. Okay, so you all have seen our equity scorecard and our opportunity index several times at this point, and we had a meeting during our retreat on Saturday to discuss feedback that we received when I presented this to a group of administrators and other employees from the district. I've made some changes based on that feedback. The biggest one really is around kindergarten readiness. We've excluded the data from the 2020-2021 school year based on the information that this year the kindergarten readiness exam occurred well into the school year rather than within the first 30 days of instruction. That was based on a change that the legislature made in response to the COVID pandemic. But ultimately, it caused a noticeable jump in the scores for that year. So it looks like there is a dip, but this is represented across the state and wasn't really indicative of anything in our school. So we have excluded that year. I did verify that and included some links there. And then we've also updated the description of kindergarten readiness just to specify that in general, this is an indicator that shows how students are coming into our district and that the majority of the students that we have are not receiving pre-K instruction from the district, since in Kentucky that is currently needs-based. The other change that was made here was around the teacher workforce page. We had some questions about the students with out-of-field teachers rate, specifically because some of the elementary schools jumped quite dramatically to the upper 90s and the 100%. I did look into this, and it seems like there was a change in how the state reported and calculated these numbers starting in the 2024-2025 school year. And this was statewide as well, where previous to that year, there weren't really any schools that were above 80%. And after that year, there were schools across many districts that were. The Kentucky Department of Education seems to have sent out some information about how there may be some discrepancies in Infinite Campus with how this information is being reported. So there may be some issues with this data point in particular. We are reflecting exactly what's coming from the Kentucky Department of Education, so I've left it here, but I did add this asterisk along with a note about that, the data quality issue that we are seeing there with links off to the KDE and details on anyone who wants to follow up there. And then we do have our PDF version of the report. The only thing that was updated here was the slight update to the kindergarten readiness description to detail that most students coming into FCPS do not receive pre-K instruction from the district. So with that, I did want to ask for the ECC's approval to adopt these as the semi-permanent drafts. The only changes that I expect to make are I'm going to work with the districts to get a finalized URL that we want to use for the portal. And I will update the PDF so that it links to that, and I'll update the website so that it includes a finalized version of the PDF once all of that is wrapped up. But all of the content will remain unchanged otherwise.
Scott,
Any discussion?
oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, please go ahead.
Can we go to the teacher workforce reporting?
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Okay. The years that you have there, what are the comparisons?
This is actually just showing the current year. This is not doing any kind of comparison. So this is just the most recent year's values.
Okay. Do we have other years?
We do have other years, and so you are able to come in here to the filters button, and if you want to see other years, we don't show them side by side on this data in particular. If that's something we wanted to consider in the future, we definitely could.
I think maybe adding some type of indicator where it's like, I guess I just missed that when I was going through it. I missed that button, that feature. I don't know if that was just me or if, I don't know, we could add a marker indicating.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. We could definitely consider,
How did you get there? Can you click on that again?
there are a couple ways. You can either click on filters here, or you can click on
Oh,
2024,
gotcha.
25
Okay.
here. Yeah,
I
both
didn't do that.
open that up.
And then the other thing that I was going to say is, can we, like the kindergarten readiness stuff, does that imply that because they didn't go to preschool, then they're not kindergarten ready? Or is it ready? Like, what is the lack of readiness caused by? Is it the lack of preschool participation?
I wouldn't say that our report really takes a position on that, or we don't suggest that directly. Ultimately, we're trying to say, in specifying that most students who are coming in have not received pre-K instruction in the district, it's that this indicator more than others is not really reflective on the effectiveness of the district. It is for us, it's useful to see how students are coming in from their home life. There are a minority of students who are receiving pre-K instruction from the district, but really this is more of an indicator of how students are coming from their own independent backgrounds. We definitely see a wide variety of kindergarten readiness, but I don't think that we're saying that they aren't ready because they didn't receive pre-K instruction from here. I think we could probably find definite reporting that kids who don't receive any pre-K instruction are less kindergarten ready than those who do receive pre-K instruction, but that's not something that we're really trying to suggest here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Raisa, is your hand up for another question?
I forgot to take it down. Sorry.
Oh no, you're all good. Well, Scott, you're probably tired of hearing this at this point, but just such a fantastic job to you and your whole committee. It's so good to see the ECC delivering on this. If there are no further questions, I will accept a motion to adopt this.
I make a motion to accept the latest draft of the scorecard.
I second.
Perfect. You guys are on it. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. We'll move into a time of voting. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Perfect. Any opposed? Beautiful. Motion carries. Great job to that whole committee. Seriously. All right. Moving on into our discussion items now. We have the FAIR framework. This is something incredible that Dr. Matthews and Lizzie Coffey kind of formulated the title for this. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it stands for Flowchart for Accessible and Inclusive Recommendations. Is that correct? Lizzie, please put in the meeting minutes that you helped to formulate that name. I would love for that to be recorded officially. So I am the chair of that subcommittee. I will be reaching out to the other subcommittee members soon to schedule a meeting to discuss this. And we're actually going to try to put some more solid details down to create this, to then share it to the ECC, similar to what the scorecard subcommittee did. So there's not a whole lot of things that are solidified right now, but if there's any other lingering thoughts that you all want to talk about right now, very briefly, we can discuss some of those things.
Only thought is I appreciate the presentations. I'm thankful for the partnerships and the continued conversations. And so I think this is a lot of great news for our families and our students and our staffs. And again, I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Totally agree. All right. Well, I guess we can move on into our reports. We have extended until 9 p.m., so I guess we do have some time. First up will be the superintendent's report by Dr. Liggins.
Well, I will make mine brief. I know the late hour. We do have, of course, graduations coming up this Thursday and Friday, our final graduation. We have on Thursday, Frederick Douglass, Henry Clay, and Lafayette in that order at 10, 2, and 6, as well as on Friday, Takes Creek, Bryan Station, and Paul Lawrence Dunbar. And that order as well. Please come out and enjoy celebrating with us, our graduates. We're also launching, beginning on Monday, our summer feeding program. This year, we're partnering with several of our community partners, the library and other nonprofit organizations. And so there are certain places that will be providing lunch all summer long consistently. There's also campuses that will be providing lunch at in different times. And so if anyone is interested in learning about how to get their summer feedings, can text food, FOOD, to the number 914-342-7744, and it will give you all the locations in Lexington and around your area as well. So that's it for my report. Thank you very much, Vice Chair Williams. I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Liggins. We'll move into our board report. Do we still have Board Chair Murphy on?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you all, and I will also keep mine brief. And I appreciate the robust conversation around the pilot program, and I apologize for interjecting as much as I did. I just wanted to make sure that you all were aware that we appreciate the questions, and we'll make sure that we get all of those answered ahead of your next DCC meeting and discussion. As Dr. Liggins said, we're excited about graduations. It's literally, my favorite part of being a board member is attending our graduations and getting the chance to see our students, hand them their diploma, and the interactions that happen before and after. It's really it's what we all are working for, right, in this work, to get our students across that stage. And we have students who are going to excel no matter what the next chapter holds for them. Some are walking off the stage with associate's degrees. Some are walking off the stage with CNA licenses. Some are going to be going to college, military careers. Some are walking off the stage on a Friday and going to work on Mondays. So it's a very exciting time for our district and a chance for us to highlight the successes that our students have had and our staff have had over the past year. At our action meeting in May, as you all know, the board did pass a tentative budget. As the interim CFO underscored, it is indeed a tentative budget. We're still working on numbers, fine-tuning numbers that will require us to restate the previous audit for the fiscal year 25. But once that process is complete, and we've used the analogy of peeling back the onion multiple times, we hope to have a more full and accurate picture moving forward, and that's going to prepare us to make sure that we're operating with accurate information. We're fine-tuning processes. We have an external review that is underway, and none of us want to get ahead of that, but we also can't wait around for some of that. So the tentative budget is balanced. It obviously was not an easy vote for any board member, but it did pass unanimously because we recognize our responsibility in making these decisions, maximizing as best we can the investments that we've made in the classrooms up to this point, and protecting some of our vital programs, particularly around dual credit, which has helped us expand access to college and make college more affordable for our students. Protecting our Grow Your Own program, which I know has been important to you all and all of our team as well, and making sure we protect those discretionary positions where we go above and beyond what the state minimum requirement is for our allocations to schools. So again, I don't want to take too much of your time because I know this meeting has already gone late, but I'm always happy to entertain any questions that you have, and will echo what others have said, and that I appreciate your work and your dedication to our students and our district.
If I could add on to that, Tyler, you mentioned about the college degrees, et cetera. We do have a record. Again, we've created a record where we have more students graduating than ever before in the history of Fayette County Public Schools with associate degrees. And I think it's also important to this committee, as well as it is to me and the board and our community, that that is a very diverse group of students. So, excited about that. So wanted to add that on there.
In our biliteracy, I think we also broke a record with number of biliteracy that we're giving out. It's close to 300, if not at 300. So great successes all around at graduation.
Thank you so much. We will move into the Equity Council Chair report. I think Kamisha stepped off. So I'm just going to take this moment to just, again, brag on you all. I mean, we just did a pass at our bylaws led by the amazing Dr. Ellis, and we're finalizing those. Scott just presented the ECC equity scorecard. We have this fair framework in the pipeline. I mean, we're really doing great things, and we had a great conversation today. I would like to remind everybody to please send your questions to Dr. Matthews on the pilot programs if you have any questions. But yeah, the ECC is just doing great things, and I wanted to take this time to acknowledge all of that. Board Chair Murphy.
On the questions piece, I do have a question. I know when we did it as a board, we kind of set a time frame, so I didn't know if that's something that you all wanted to do as well, just to give, say, if you have any questions, submit them by X date, and then that way we can make sure we get everything answered. And that's not something necessarily you have to set tonight, but if you want to coordinate with Dr. Matthews and then as the committee, just decide that. We just want to make sure we get everybody's questions answered and nobody misses an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Dr. Matthews, is Dr. Matthews on here? Yes. Okay.
Yes, I'm still here.
Do you think that it would be possible for us to continue the conversation and maybe even do the vote at our planning meeting? Do you think that's something that's feasible?
Of course we can. As you know, we tend to not want to do action items at the planning meeting, but of course, if the ECC feels very strongly in doing so, and probably because of time, it may be the only option to do so. So with that in mind, in order to get the questions, get them to where they're going, get them turned around, we need to make sure that we can get those questions pretty quickly.
What feels good to you? By Friday of this week, have questions submitted?
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking, by Friday.
All right. You guys heard her, ECC members. And you can just keep the floor for your report.
Excellent. And so I'll go ahead and tell everyone on the ECC, at least, I've already emailed you a copy of the presentations as well as the documents that Chair Murphy dropped into the chat. So you should have those in your email box. And then I'll send a calendar invite, with just a reminder to get those questions to me by Friday. I'll make my report very short. What I'll share is from the Right Size Bright Future Committee. They are looking forward to, and Raisha Russell is on that committee, yours truly from the ECC. We'll be sharing at least the initial draft for the rezoning boundaries for the new Helen Case Wade Elementary School with the board this month. And so that's, I think that's very pertinent also to the ECC. So that's where I'll stop with I have several other things, but for the sake of time, I feel like that was probably the priority that I would share with the ECC.
Thank you so much, Dr. Matthews. As for subcommittee reports, we've really talked about all the subcommittees except for potentially bylaws. And speaking of which, I see Dr. Ellis's hand up. Dr. Ellis.
My only 2 cents real quick is we need to have a subcommittee meeting that was either going to be this Wednesday or likely next Wednesday. I think only 2 people voted and we're split 50-50. So if you have preferences, subcommittee, please vote, and then I'll send out a link.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, moving to other communication. Are there any announcements? Okay. Well, with that being said, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Perfect. We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Hope not. Okay. All right. Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks all.